Well, I think we're definitely entering an inflationary environment. The massive stimulus in the US, $6 trillion, is going to have far-ranging effects. You're starting to see that with sort of more industry-based commodities like copper, oil, lumber for one. Try building a deck now. But it'll eventually progress to precious metals as inflation throughout the economy picks up. I think what we're seeing now is likely more than transitory. It's probably the first wave of higher prices throughout, and likely for a sustained period of time.
Welcome to another RTD interview. Today I'm excited to have first-time guest, Mr. Nikolas Matysek, the CEO and founder of Snowline Gold Corporation. And today he's joined us to share his thoughts on the economy, the precious metals sector, as well as opportunities in the exploration and mining space. So Nikolas, welcome to RTD Interviews.
Thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, Nikolas, I thank you for taking time to join us here on RTD Interviews. Looking forward to finding out more about Snowline Gold Corp. But more important, before we dive into that information, I'm curious to find out who Nikolas Matysek actually is. So if you don't mind, share with us a little bit of your background and how you've arrived at this point in your career.
Sure. I'm a trained geologist, grown up in the mining industry. Both my parents were geologists. I've had jobs in all stages of mineral exploration, from getting eaten alive by black flies and mosquitoes in Northern Ontario to working in 3 major deserts, all desolate in their own way, to finally becoming CEO of Snowline Gold. I've worked in investment banking, part of the CFA course, but this was just the next logical step for my career.
Understandable. So I appreciate you for taking time to share your background with us. And so let's dive right into some of the relevant issues of today. And so over the last year, given this whole current health global situation, central banks, governments have responded in unusual fashion. But yet here we are today. And the mainstream narrative is that inflation is picking up. And of course it has. It's nothing new, but it's becoming a primary topic as a result of all the commodities. We got copper, iron, you name it, other than gold and silver, have been doing extremely well as a result of inflation. Share with us a little bit of what could be going on behind the scenes that we may not be aware of when it comes to why certain commodities have done extremely well, whereas in gold and silver may not have done so well as of yet.
Well, I think we're definitely entering an inflationary environment. The massive stimulus in the US, $6 trillion, is going to have far-ranging effects. You're starting to see that with sort of more industry-based commodities like copper, oil, lumber for one. Try building a deck now. But it'll eventually progress to precious metals as inflation throughout the economy picks up. I think what we're seeing now is likely more than transitory. It's probably the first wave of higher prices throughout, and likely for a sustained period of time.
Understandable. Now, gold and silver, of course, has always been historical hedges against, monetary and fiscal policy. And so in this current environment, I take it that in the next couple of months, years, we're going to see a real increase in the actual price of gold and silver per ounce. But also there's some issues now developing with the fact that we have the silver Wall Street's bets crowd in the silver department. And then on the gold side, we have some of the Basel III stuff coming into play. Is that something that you also keep an eye on as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the fundamentals for gold are very strong over the long term. Just through inflation alone, with all this cheap money going out, the U.S. already has a fairly high debt burden, but just a way to make that more manageable, you're just going to have some of that inflated away, and you'll see that in the strong appreciation for gold over the longer term. We're starting to see some near record highs again, and I believe that we're on a very positive trajectory.
Right. Yeah, one of the things you mentioned, just cheap money flowing around there. And so I can't help but mention, I guess, Stanley Druckenmiller, just within the last week or so, really came out and shined light as to why we're experiencing the conditions we're experiencing. And he pointed it back to the Federal Reserve, saying that they are just, printing money or letting the, printing press go crazy. And of course, it's going to hurt a certain sector or a certain section of the population. He happens to mention the poor. And so I take it that at some point, this inflation will become a problem in the form of possible hyperinflation, or is that something that you're concerned with, in the long-term aspect when it comes to the dollar in particular?
Well, I lived in Zimbabwe, which went through its own period of hyperinflation. Like I got this
Ooh, we.
$100 trillion bill.
Yeah,
Which,
surprisingly, I have one right here on my desk as well. But go.
do you?
Yeah, actually, let me see. I have some Zimbabwe notes. I have some Argentino, Venezuelan pesos, and then here's my collection of Zimbabwe notes, and I have the 1 trillion too. So I think I have more trillions on my desk than you. But I'm sorry. Continue on.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, I lived there growing up, and I've just seen what that hyperinflation can do to a country. It affects like, especially the poor, people with like harder assets like land, that they'll appreciate against it. But for more lay people, diversifying into physical silver and gold just is a great hedge against that. Mm-hmm. I think as to general inflation throughout the economy, I think it's really going to hurt a lot of stock market valuations, especially in the tech sector, where you're trading at like a lot of that valuation is based on future earnings. Mm-hmm. And it's not going to look so good in a higher rate environment. Right. I think we're all feeling pretty rich looking at our trading accounts because the market keeps going up, come what may. But I think when the music stops, there's going to be a lot of upset people, especially with like more tax increases in the US. It was okay when we're all making money and the pie's getting bigger. But should that stop, it's going to become a lot harder to bear.
Right, very true. And I did not know about the Zimbabwe situation. So if you don't mind, I would love to, dive a little bit deeper into that, because that's real world experience. And so here on my channel, I've had a chance to interview a couple people, or actually one gentleman in particular, directly on camera and another one off camera, describing the whole crisis for the last several years in Zimbabwe. So I'm curious to find out, what are some takeaways that we in the developed world can learn based upon the events that took place in Zimbabwe and currently taking place now? Assuming, do you still follow events, with the Zimbabwe as much, or?
As much news gets out of there, none of it's very positive.
Yeah.
Periods of hyperinflation where you have $100 trillion banknotes are more than monetary policy. It's a lack of faith in the whole monetary system, mm-hmm. Normally through political crises. I like to hope that we won't see something like that in more developed countries, in Canada and the US, Europe. But it's this massive inflation is a symptom of greater instability. And I think we're going to get some flavor of that over the next, medium and long term here.
Right, understandable. Now, in regards to, the worst case scenario, of course, no one wants to see hyperinflationary style events, but based upon the current trends, history, we can learn a lot from history. And so when it comes to precious metals, gold and silver, and also mining stocks or whatnot, in environments like that, I saw typically they do extremely well. Can you give us some possible scenarios of what the prices might be if we end up seeing something extreme in the form of, extreme inflation, hyperinflation, worst case scenarios?
Worst case scenarios, I think if we're living in a world with $3,000 or $4,000 gold, I don't think it's a very happy place for very many people. I think we're tickling $2,000 an ounce gold. I think that'll be sort of a longer term trend. But to get to something more extreme, I think there's going to be a lot of other things going wrong too.
Yeah, understandable. Now, one of the things that's different now than in prior events that have occurred is that there's a new asset class, and it happens to be in the digital space with digital assets, and of course, Bitcoin leading the way. And so a lot of people over the last several years now have become extremely excited about that particular technology because it runs, counter to gold and silver, but yet a lot of people are saying it's new. It's the new form of a gold. We no longer need gold. What did you say to those people?
I think there's a lot of people that have been stuck at home through the pandemic that felt like they're making some money. And I think there's a sense of FOMO, people are piling into it. It's going up. I want to get in too. I think that probably on some level took the shine away from gold and traditional precious metals as hedges. But it's an immature market and you're dealing with this incredible volatility. If you can have one person sort of say we're going to take Bitcoin and then all of a sudden not, and then you lose incredible amounts of money on it, that's not a mature market. I can come out here and talk to everybody about how great I think gold's going to do. I'm a small player, but I'm not going to move that market. And it's just you're dealing with different levels of maturity.
Yeah, understandable. Understandable. So, in your opinion, can they exist together, or what? What do you think?
I think I think there's a place for both.
Yeah.
There's a lot more drivers for gold and precious metals. They have industrial uses.
Yeah.
People they're similar in the fact that they both have value because people ascribe value to them.
Right.
That's a big driver for gold. Gold, on the other hand, is something physical. It can't get taken away from you once you have it, assuming it's physical. Bitcoin, I don't know. You can have a whole bunch of mining rigs, but I don't know if you really own it then. So it's a lot of it psychological, the value that we place on it.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, well, with that being the case, so we all understand why gold and silver is extremely important in the days ahead. So there's also, and this is where I really enjoy being able to connect with entrepreneurs such as yourself that offer possible opportunities in the mining and exploration space. Because as I mentioned before, I'm still learning and looking forward to learning more as I get a chance to sit down with you and other individuals. And so Snowline Gold Corp, let's dive into that a little bit. Give us a little bit about the company as well as the team and some of the investors, at this current point.
Yeah, Snowline Gold has a great set of projects in the Yukon Territory in Canada. We have a great technical team and the cash to explore effectively. We have some really great shareholders involved. Eric Sprott, for one, Keith Neumeyer, the CEO of First Majestic, purest silver miner out there, and Palisades Gold. They're all major shareholders, and they believe in the projects we have. Our advisors include Dr. Quinton Henney, who took First Mining Springpole 5 million ounces gold, part of Newfound Gold, part of Nevada King, and my father, Paul Matysek. He sold 5 public listed companies, in the process of selling its 6th, generated billions of dollars of shareholder value. And they believe that we're at an early stage, but we have that potential to become something pretty special.
Interesting. So give us a little bit of insight as to some of your current projects. What do you guys have going on now?
It's a really exciting time for Snowline. We're just about to start our first season as Snowline Gold. There've been a couple years of work done previously, but with the $6 million we have in the bank, we're going to start drilling this summer. I'm going up to the Yukon, hopefully the week after next, be there, set up the camp, get boots on the ground and start drilling. The drilling is going to be the major catalyst for making these discoveries.
Understandable. So I assume, so you mentioned you guys are fully funded or whatnot. So I'm assuming that has to be very exciting that everything is taken care of and you guys are ready to hit the ground running. What's some of in the next couple of months, as far as you're saying you're going to hit the ground running, what are some things you are kind of expecting and what are you seeing so far as far as the good points of what's actually in the ground there?
Yeah, we've had some great surface sampling results, like ounce per ton samples gold at the surface up to 152 grams per ton, which in a jurisdiction like Canada is pretty special.
Yeah.
So we're getting all this smoke at the surface. So it's about exploring efficiently and effectively to prove that out below the surface, understand that structure and get drill intercepts that we can point to and say, look, we got this project and now there's some real serious gold here.
Interesting. So outside of that, what else would you consider as essential for the projects you guys have going on?
Well, we're talking with the communities. We're in good relationships with everybody. I think it's not a complicated story. We got a great team. We got some great projects. We got the money to explore, and the train's just about to leave the station. So once we start drilling, it'll be a really exciting time. We've got all our permits lined up, so just got to hold on now.
Yeah. Now, so for you personally, what's your, as one of the co-founders, what's some of your short-term, long-term goals for the company? Where do you see it 1-2 years from this point moving forward?
Yeah, I would love to be at the end of the season, point to a couple of drill intersections, say we're starting to understand that geology really in depth. Over the next 2-3 years, continue drilling, prove out a resource, do some economic studies. We're explorers. We're not mine builders. There'll be definitely a potential down the road to find someone else to take it to that next level. It's something that Paul Matysek's had a lot of success with over the last 13 years.
Understandable. Now, for you guys are a publicly traded company. Give us some of the ticker symbols and things of that nature where you guys listed at and stuff like that.
Yeah, we're Snowline Gold, traded on the Canadian Securities Exchange under ticker symbol SGD. And also on the pink sheets, moving to a QB listing, SNWGF.
Okay. Now, are you accessible? Say for some of the viewers have questions or whatnot, are they able to reach out to you? And of course, I'll put some information beneath this video here. But are you accessible to answer any questions, perhaps, or anything like that?
Yeah, yeah. Find us on social media or through our website, snowlinegold.com. There's a little info box. My information's in all the press releases. So it's yeah, drop me a line. I'm responsive. For people who are excited about the story, it's always great to connect.
Sounds good. Well, Nikolass, I appreciate you for taking time to join us here on RTD Interviews. Definitely looking forward to finding out more about the projects, and hopefully have you on the next couple of months when you guys get out there and actually get some boots on the ground and see where you guys are at that point. And definitely love to follow track with you guys. So thank you for joining us on RTD Interviews.
Thank you very much for having me. It was a real pleasure.